Before Hotel Fancépants existed, there was just a woman with a dream and a modest kitchen. Her name was Madeleine Fancépants. She believed breakfast should be extravagant and that as much as possible should be made from scratch. In that kitchen, she baked croissants by hand, brewed strong coffee, and imagined what it would be like to have a hotel of her own, one where she'd call the shots in the kitchen. In her imagination, the hotel kitchen appliances had names and their own personalities. She laughed at the idea of a sugar bowl with a sweet nature and a rivalry between the coffee maker and espresso machine. It was all pretend, of course, but dreams have a funny way of sticking around. Because long after Madeleine had opened her dream hotel, with a kitchen bigger and better than her wildest hopes, her imaginary breakfast crew remained. And that, dear reader, is where our story begins. Chapter 1. Whimsical was a little town whose downtown had rows of shops in all shapes, sizes, and colors. One of the most famous buildings was Hotel Fancépants. It was the fanciest hotel for miles. What made it so fancy? Marble floors, sky-high ceilings, elegant decor fit for royalty. It's no wonder their slogan was, "Fit for the King and Queen." The guest list included royal families, celebrities, and the fabulously wealthy. But the true highlight, the breakfast buffet. Made from scratch every morning by chef extraordinary Madeleine Fancépants, the spread featured eggs benedict, omelets, pancakes, crepes, croissants, and fruit parfaits. The works. A breakfast lover's dream. Just by thinking about it, you could practically smell the pure maple syrup and aromatic coffee. And speaking of coffee, theirs was the best in the nation. The beans were imported and brewed to perfection. The aroma greeted guests like a warm hug. But beneath the glamour and gourmet cuisine, something wasn't right. There was tension, real tension, and of all places, it centered around the buffet table. Hard to imagine, right? But it had been that way since the hotel opened. Such a beautiful place, yet not entirely peaceful. Could that ever change? Well, maybe, but it wouldn't be easy. Change never is. Chapter 2. Unusual as it may sound, the coffee and espresso machines at Hotel Fancépants had names. From the beginning, Coffee Time and Espresso had been center stage at the buffet table, which came to life every night. Like Beauty and the Beast or Night at the Museum, everything from salt shakers to food warmers to napkin holders could talk, think, and feel. But not everything was magical. Trouble brewed between Coffee Time and Espresso. They bickered, constantly, loudly. No one else could get a word in edgewise. Not the salt shakers, the pepper shakers, the napkin holders, or the ever-popular sugar bowl. Want a sample of the chaos? At least my name sounds like one a human might have, Espresso sniffed. Maybe, Coffee Time replied with a smirk, but mine is more clever sounding. Of course it is. I named you, remember? Big deal. I'm still more popular. Are you sure? Lots of people like a good espresso shot. Most go for a full cup of coffee, not a sip from a tiny thimble. What neither mentioned was what they had in common. The elegant white cups with gold trim stamped with the hotel's initials in cursive, HF. Espresso fell silent. Nothing to add? Coffee Time said. Plenty, just thinking. I'm all ears. That made Espresso laugh. I'm picturing you with ginormous ears. To his own surprise, Coffee Time laughed too. Okay, that's funny, but I'm still more popular. I don't think so. Less is more. He didn't feel too confident, though. Deep down, Espresso hated feeling less than his counterpart. He wished they could settle this argument once and for all. Then, Coffee Time had an idea. Let's take a vote, sort of. For 6 days, Seltzer and Pepu could keep count of who gets used more. The salt and pepper shakers glanced at each other. Espresso shook his lever. Better idea. Let Sweet Stuff observe. She's in the middle, and she likes us both. So I'll decide who wins, she added. Right, they said in unison. Coffee Time and espresso often said things in unison, like the time a 4-year-old tried to grab a cup of coffee. When they talked about it later that night, they both blurted out, "Too young for coffee." "So it's settled?" Coffee Time asked. "Sure," said espresso, hiding his nerves. What if he was less popular? Would he get tossed in the trash? "Honestly, I'm tired of the bickering," Sweet Stuff said. "Maybe this will bring the peace we all long for." They all agreed. They could only hope this was the beginning of a new era. Chapter 3. The next morning seemed extra special. The machines gleamed, the buffet sparkled, and the coffee aroma danced through the lobby. It's as if the hotel staff knew something special was about to take place. Sweet Stuff called it day 1 of the Great Observation. All day she watched the guests. Customers didn't notice, of course. During the day, the buffet items were still and silent. Later that night, however, Sweet Stuff called the first meeting. Espresso clanked nervously. Coffee Time polished and still looked smug. "So," Coffee Time said, "what did you find? I assume I won." Espresso said nothing. "Actually," Sweet Stuff said, "it was a tie." "Really?" Espresso asked, sounding surprised. "Really," she confirmed. "Let me explain." "No need," Coffee Time waved her off. "I want to hear," said Espresso. Sweet Stuff smiled and began. The first couple was a celebrity pair. She had espresso. He had the biggest coffee we offer. But he didn't finish, and she went back for seconds. So I call that even. "Interesting," said Espresso. "Doesn't prove anything," Coffee Time grumbled. Then there was a group of women. Half had espresso, half had coffee, and get this, a couple of the ladies used tiny cups for regular coffee. "Just a fluke," said Coffee Time. "It went on like that all day," Sweet Stuff said. Some customers had neither coffee nor espresso. Other groups had both. Points for day 1 came out 100% even, as far as I can tell. Espresso looked surprised. Coffee Time tried to hide his frown. "Let's see what happens the rest of the week," Sweet Stuff said. "May the best machine win," Coffee Time replied with an air of smugness. Espresso said nothing, while Sweet Stuff worried about him. Chapter 4. Tuesday should have started like every other day, except for one big problem. There was a citywide power outage. Day 2 of the Great Observation had to be postponed. Espresso didn't mind. He needed space to think about the previous day. What if every day ended in a tie? Could there be room for both of them? Could peace actually come to these parts? Hope brewed in his mind. "Don't get too comfortable," Coffee Time said. "I'm most likely to win." Espresso didn't reply as he remained deep in thought. "Cat got your tongue?" Coffee Time snickered, picturing what that would look like. Espresso didn't flinch. "Cool it, CT," Sweet Stuff said. She turned to Espresso. "Hey, are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine," he said quietly, "just thinking." Coffee Time tried one more jab. "If you're fine, I'm superb." He let out a hearty laugh. Espresso sighed and finally responded. "Knock it off, CT." "CT? I've been called that twice now. I like it. Now you need a nickname. I'm calling dibs on Espy." Espresso secretly liked his new nickname, but chose not to respond. Maybe he'd have more to say tomorrow. Chapter 5. The power had returned in the late afternoon yesterday, too late for breakfast. That made today the new day too. Everything sparkled again, just like before. Sweet Stuff got to work, watching and mentally recording the activity thanks to her photographic memory. But by the 5th customer, her heart sank. Everyone had chosen coffee. Not one person touched Espy. That night she gathered her courage. She'd been dreading this conversation. But CT beat her to it. "Today doesn't count," he said. "Why not?" Sweet Stuff asked. Espy stayed silent. "It was National Coffee Day, all right. I heard customers talking about the billboard around town. That's why they lined up for me like I was royalty." Sweet Stuff blinked. "That actually makes sense." Espy nodded. "To me too." He hated to admit it even to himself, but Coffee Time's confidence was shaken. What if his popularity was based more on the calendar? He was in such deep thought he almost missed Sweet Stuff's announcement. Okay then, Sweet Stuff said. Tomorrow is day 2 all over again. Everyone agreed, which was refreshing, but the pressure was mounting. Chapter 6. The next evening, SB didn't need a recap. He already had a sinking feeling, because barely anyone touched him all day. Again, he dreaded what CT would say, but once again, CT surprised him. Only a few people had coffee today, he said before Sweet Stuff could begin. I think I was on the fritz, SB2. Sweet Stuff nodded. I think you're right, and it wasn't espresso day as far as I know. No, it wasn't, SB whispered. If that had been true, it would have been his turn for the royal treatment. Should we restart day 3? CT asked. Neither of us had much business, so to speak. They all fell silent. Sweet Stuff finally spoke. Let's give it a day. Sleep on it. Decide tomorrow. Okay, CT and SB once again said in unison. Will this ever end? SB thought to himself. The thought of another day 2 wasn't appealing. But how else were they going to decide who is more popular? Chapter 7. The next night, the 3 of them reconvened. I've been thinking, CT said. This daily observation business is exhausting. You're not joking, SB added. Maybe Sweet Stuff is right from the start. Maybe our popularity is a tie. Maybe so. Either way, I'm ready to call a truce. Not only that, CT wasn't about to admit his relief to anyone. Those nasty doubts had been getting to him. SB seemed surprised, but sounded pleased. I've had enough, for real. Sweet Stuff beamed. I've dreamed of this moment for years. Can we all agree there's room for both of you? Yes, they said in unison. They laughed, and so did she. Hooray, hooray, hooray for SB and CT, Sweet Stuff said. Hear, hear, they said at the same time, and the room rang with a beautiful sound. Laughter. Chapter 8. Hotel Fancépants was finally at peace. The outside was beautiful, and now so was the inside. Though customers never knew what went on at the buffet table, everyone felt the change. And it showed. The hotel won awards and international recognition. Its fame grew. Can you believe we ever fought? CT asked after the hotel's 10th award. So silly, SB said. There's always been room for both of us. Absolutely. You're different yet similar, Sweet Stuff added, and you're both needed. True, true, they said at the same time, and they laughed, a most wonderful sound. Hotel Fancépants' food review, as noted in the Daily Whimsy newspaper. In downtown Whimsyton, there's simply no place finer than Hotel Fancépants. The coffee and espresso are especially superb, says international food reviewer Bruno Beans. And I can't forget Chef Fancépants. She sure knows what she's doing in the kitchen. I'll be sure to mention the hotel and this amazing chef wherever I go. Epilogue. Thank you for reading Hotel Fancépants and the Very Big Problem. I hope you enjoyed the story and discovered its important message. There's room for everyone. Coffee Time and espresso spent so much time arguing, trying to prove who is more important. In the end, they learned the truth, that they each had a purpose. So do you and I. Sometimes we feel the need to compete or compare, but we don't have to. When we celebrate our differences and choose kindness, peace follows. That peace spreads not just to us, but to the people around us. The hotel became a better place when the bickering stopped. The same can happen in our homes, schools, and communities. I want to leave you with a few reflection questions. You can think about them, write your answers, or discuss them with someone you trust. No matter how you use them, I hope they help you apply and remember the lessons of this story. Question 1. Could you relate to the very big problem between Coffee Time and espresso? How so? Question 2. What did you think of their plan to let Sweet Stuff observe customer choices? Would you have done something different? Question 3. How did you feel when they finally got along? Were you surprised, relieved, or something else? Question 4. Have you ever worried that you didn't belong? How did that make you feel? Question 5. Have you ever had someone in your life who felt like a rival? How did you handle it? Question 6. If you sometimes feel like you don't fit in, how will you remind yourself that your differences make you unique? The end.